Hello everyone, welcome to the new session of Plant Kingdom. So in this session we are going to study about the gymnosperms and angiosperms. Okay, so if we talk about the gymnosperm, then they are totally different from the uh, angiosperms, and they are having some advanced characteristics if we compared with the uh, bryophytes or the pteridophytes as well. So if we see the gymnosperm, then they are having the name itself suggests that gymnos means naked and sperma means seed, means naked seed, naked seed. Okay, and they are the plants in which the ovules are not enclosed by any ovary wall and remain exposed both before and after the fertilization. This is one of the very unique feature of the gymnosperms. Then their ovules, how the ovules look like. So we have already studied the ovules is structure is like this in the case of angiosperm. Okay, but in the case of this ovule, if you see, it is like this. Okay, it is like this, and it is not having any covering. Like in the case of angiosperm, you can see this ovary wall. Okay, you can see this ovary wall. But here, no ovary wall is there. No ovary wall. No ovary wall. So this is making this is the very unique feature of the gymnosperm, that they are not covered by any membrane or enclosed by any ovary wall and remain exposed. So the ovule, when after the fertilization, what happened? The ovule changes to seed. This ovule only changes to seed. Ovule changes to seed. Now, when this seed, when after the fertilization in the gymnosperm also, the ovule changes to seed. Now, this seed is what? The seed is uncovered. The seed is uncovered, right? So, that is why it is said that the seed is naked in the case of gymnosperm. Naked seed. And it is remain exposed. It is not only remain exposed after the fertilization, but you see this ovule is exposed before the fertilization as well. It is not having any type of covering outside, whether it is before fertilization or after fertilization. So this is a very unique feature of the gymnosperm. And you cannot see this type of feature in previous the lower plants, whether it is the bryophytes or pteridophytes. Okay, and in angiosperm, a very unique covering is there. Okay, that is called as ovary wall. So when it get mature, this ovary changes to fruit. This ovary changes to fruit, and this ovule changes to seed. Now here, if no wall is there, then there is no formation of fruit, but yes, ovule itself changes to seed. Now the seed that develops after the post fertilization are not covered. After the fertilization, the seed changes to this ovule changes to seed. So the seed that is developed after the post fertilization, it is uncovered. It is not covered by any membrane or any wall, and that is why it is called as naked. So the seeds in the case of gymnosperms are naked. Now here you can see the gymnosperms that include medium-sized trees or tall trees, and even sometimes in the form of shrubs. So here you can see the cycas plant. The cycas plant, its leaf is quite uh, very tough. Okay, covered with the waxy cuticle covering. and it's very glossy, even shining glossy surface. And this is also showing the feature of xerophytic characters. Xerophytic. It is a xerophytic plant because it can grow where the condition is very harsh, less water required. The stomata is sunken type in the case of cycas. If you see the this structure of a leaf of the cycas, then you can see the stomata is sunken. Sunken means the stomata is present very deep in the leaf so that it can minimize the water transpiration. And the plant in the case of cycas is having a, you can say this is having a male or female cone. Individual plant is having, so if this plant can be considered as a male plant, and another plant that will be having the microsporophylls, okay, the megasporophylls, then that will be considered as a female plant. And the one that is containing a male cone, okay, male cone, that is having microsporophyll, then it is considered as a male plant. So both the type of cones are there, male cone and female cone. Male cone will contain the microsporophylls and the female cone will contain the megasporophylls. Right? Now you can see this in a very small heighted. It is not in the form of a very large tree. Now if you see, this is the pinus tree. The pinus tree can be a very high, okay, it is a tall tree in category, and it is having a very unique feature that it is having a needle like leaf, like this leaf is in the form of needle. This is the feature of this pinus, and they are having the male cone, small main cone, and large female cone. Okay. Now here, ginkgo biloba, one of the plant that is called as ginkgo. So this ginkgo is having this wing-like leaf, which is a very unique leaf. And here you can see that it's bearing the seeds. Now it is having the two type of shoot, dwarf shoot and long shoot. So this is the long shoot, which is bearing some dwarf shoot as well. Now this dwarf shoot is having leaf-like structures. Leaf, not leaf-like, actual the leaf they are. And it is also bearing some seeds also. So three different types of plants, cycas, pinus, and ginkgo has been represented in the figure. Now one of the gymnosperm, the giant redwood tree, Sequoia gigantica. Sequoia gigantica is one of the tallest tree species. Okay, this is the tallest tree species, Sequoia gigantica, and it belongs to the gymnosperm kingdom. The roots are generally taproot. So if you see in the case of cycas, suppose this is, I'm just drawing a rough figure to understand the different types of roots. Okay, these are the leaf which got detached from the stem. So these are the markings of the leaves. Now this is the tap root. It gives right the secondary and tertiary root system like this. Okay, there are some coralloid root also, like this coralloid root. Now this coralloid root is showing that it is growing bit upward. Now the tap root is growing downward. That is tap root. So this is positively geotropism phenomena showing. Geotropism means it is growing downward, so it is attracted by the gravity. If anything is going downward, like roots are grow downward always, right? They grow to the availability of water in the deep ground in the soil, so they grow in search of water and make it available to the plant, right? So this is a positively geotropism phenomena for the taproot. Now, at this particular point where the stem end and the root started, there are some round like this coralloid roots. You can see coralloid root. Now this coralloid root do not go downward, it moves upward bit, and it contain, if you cut this coralloid root, you will see that inside it a lot of cyanobacteria are there. Okay, lot of cyanobacteria are there which can fix nitrogen. They can take nitrogen from the air and fix it and make it available to the plant. So they are helping in the nitrogen fixation. You can find nostoc and anabina inside it. Nostoc and anabina. These are the cyanobacteria. Okay, cyanobacteria which is residing in the coralloid root. Now this coralloid root is showing negative geotropism phenomena. Negative geotropism phenomena. Okay, so the roots of some genera have the fungal association in the form of mycorrhiza. Now if I talk about the tree, okay, this is the, I'm just drawing a rough figure to understand. Suppose this is a pinus tree, then their roots are going deep and it can reach to like this, okay, at far places, and at this surface some fungi get associated to its outer surface and forming the mycorrhizal association. It is again a symbiotic association, mycorrhiza. In the previous chapter you must have studied about this, okay, in the plant biological classification, right? Mycorrhiza, when we talked about the fungi. So fungi that forms a this type of association, that is the symbiotic association in the two forms, one in the form of mycorrhiza and another in the form of lichens formation, the algal component. So let us talk about this mycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza, at the outer surface of the pinus roots, some of the fungi get covered, that cover the outer surface of the root and form a mycorrhizal association. Now, what is the significance of this mycorrhiza formation? Now, this fungal component, they can take the important nutrients which is not available to this plant. Okay, they can bring from the far places because this hyphae of this mycorrhiza are reaching to the far places, and they can bring that particular mineral and make it available to this plant. For example, phosphorus. Okay, it has been seen that phosphorus is made available by this mycorrhiza, by the fungal component to the higher plant. And higher plant in return, it is providing some space, some food material for these fungi. Okay, so this roots in some genera have the fungal association in the form of mycorrhiza, that is in the case of pinus, while in some other cases, that is the cycas, a small specialized root called coralloid root are associated with the nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. So those cyanobacteria are the nostoc and amina, and we have already discussed how the cycas is having this coralloid root. Okay, so this is a very unique feature of the gymnosperms root. The stems are unbranched. Here you can see the case of cycas, they are having unbranched. The branching is not seen in the case of cycas, whereas in the case of pinus, you can find branched. Pinus is having Pinus and Cedrus. These are the two species that belongs to the one that is having the branched gymnosperm. These both are having the branched in their stem, branching in their stem. So the leaves may be simple or compound. Okay, sometimes they are having the simple leaf and sometimes is having their compound leaf. Now in the case of cycas, you can see this like this. So this is the compound leaf. It means that this is the whole one leaf and these are the leaflets. These are the leaflets. And in the case of ginkgo, you have seen this is one single leaf. Single leaf. So that is not the compound leaf. Okay. So sometimes in some of the individual, you can see this, they are having the simple leaf, whereas some they are having the compound leaf. The cycas, the pinnate leaves persist for few years. So this is the one of the feature of this cycas leaf, that they can persist for few years. They do not get uh, you can say the shed off in just one single season. They can persist for few years, right? And it is having a lot of waxy coating over its surface and making it a very shiny glossy surface of the leaf. The leaves in the gymnosperms are well adapted to withstand the extreme temperature, humidity, and wind. So, where this most of this gymnosperm plant you find in a very extreme climatic condition. Extreme climatic condition. They are present in the extreme climatic condition. All the gymnosperm generally. So, where the temperature is very high, very low, okay, the humidity is very less, wind is very uh, blowing very harsh. So there you can see these gymnosperms are present, and according to it, they are having the adaptation. Now here you can see the compound leaf. The compound leaf, when the wind can blow, it cannot be get torn. Okay, so the leaf get intact to there. The temperature, harsh temperature cannot destroy this plant, even the humidity. The conifers needle-like leaves reduce the surface area. Okay, to reduce the surface area to minimize the water loss. So this is the one of the feature of the conifers. Conifer means shaping the this cone-shaped trees like this. Cone-shaped trees. The hilly region you can see the cone-shaped trees like this. Okay, so these conifers are having the needle-like leaf. Like in the case of pinus, you can see this needle-like leaf like this. Okay, they are reduced to the spines, needle shape, and ultimately they reduces the surface area. Now their thick cuticle and sunken stomata also helps to reduce the water loss. Okay, the stomata are present very deep and that helps to reduce the water loss. Not only this, they are having the thick cuticle that already told you, that they are having the deposition of the waxy substance cuticle and making it a surface that is called as cuticle, and it's the cuticle is a very thick one, so that also minimize the water to get lost by the transpiration. And the stomata are sunken type. It is present deep inside the leaf and that reduces the water loss. So that is why they are adapted to withstand the extreme climatic condition like temperature, humidity, and wind. The gymnosperms are heterosporous. Again, this is a very, very important phenomena. Heterosporous. They produce haploid, microspores, and megaspores. So they are producing two different types of spores, and that is why they are called as they are heterosporous, because they are bearing two different types of spores. Microspores, that is the male spores. Okay, male spores, and megaspores, female spores. Okay, now the two kinds of spores are produced within the sporangia. that are born on the sporophylls. Now, what are sporophylls? Leaf-like structures. Leaf-like structures that are bearing spores are called as sporophylls. Hmm? So these two kinds of spores are produced within the sporangia that are borne on the sporophylls. Leaf-like structure that is bearing the spores, they are called, or the sporangia, they are called as sporophylls. Now these are arranged spirally along on axis to form a lax or a compact strobili or cones. So they are these sporophylls are not in a like a loose form. They are in a very compact form. They are in a very compact form like this. Okay, and forming a cone like structure. And forming a cone like structure. Okay, they are forming the cone like structure. So the strobili bearing the microsporophylls and megasporophylls. Okay, microsporophyll and microsporangia are called microsporangiate or the male strobili. So the strobili that is bearing the microsporophylls and microsporangia are called as male strobili, or the you can say the male cone, right? And the microspores develop into male gametophytic generation, which is highly reduced and is confined to only a limited number of cells. So these microspores, if I draw this one of the microsporangia in the case of cycas, then you can see like this. The microspores are like these. So these are the microspores, and this is the microsporophylls, microsporophylls. And if we cut the cross section, then we can see the microsporophylls are attached like this. So these are the microsporophylls, and inside this microspores are present. Okay, these are the microspores. And when this break down, the microspores are released out. Okay. Now, this reduced gametophyte is called as pollen grain. So, the microspores are actually what? Pollen grain. Microspores are actually the pollen grain. The development of the pollen grain take place within the microsporangia. So, inside the microsporangia only. I've just drawn a rough figure. So, this is what? This is the microsporangia. This is developing micro. These are the cells that may transform into the micro. So I'm just drawing here the one that got matures. So here this converted into the microspores or the pollen grain. So this is microsporangia, and these are the microspores. Okay. Now, the development of the pollen grain take place within the microsporangia. So, here you can see these are the round structures which is called as microsporangia. Now, the cone bearing the megasporophylls. Now, here comes the female. Okay, they bear the ovules or megasporangia are called as macrosporangiate or female strobili. So, that bear the megasporophylls. Okay, megasporophylls are like this, and they are bearing the ovule structures like this. So these are the ovules. Okay, ovules or the megasporangia, and these are called as macrosporangia because they are larger in size. Okay, these are very small, though that is why called microsporangia, and these are larger in size, therefore they are called as macrosporangiate or the female strobili. Now the male or the female cones or the strobili may be born on the same tree. For example, in the case of pinus, in the pinus both the male and females are born on the same. However, in the case of cycas, male cones and megasporophylls are born on the different teeth. That is why in the where the figure of the cycas was given, I've already discussed this with you, that the male cone is present on the one tree and the female cone is present on the another tree. So the female, actually it is in the form of sporophylls, so that is why it is called as megasporophylls. And in the case of cycas, they are bearing the male cone, right? So the megaspore mother cell is differentiated from one of the cells of the nucellus. Okay, so in the case of megasporophyll, the megaspore mother cell is get differentiated from the other cells of the nucellus, and the nucellus is protected by an envelope and the composite structure that is called as ovule. Now the ovule are born on the megasporophylls, which may be clusters to form a female cone. So sometimes this in the where they are having the cone like structure, like is in the case of pinus, all the megasporophylls become in a hard compact clusters, and that forms the female cones. Now the megaspore mother cell divide meiotically to form the four megaspores. Okay, so one of the cell that is called as megaspore mother cell undergo meiotic division. Meiotic division means reduction division in which the diploid cells become haploid. So haploid, that is four megaspores are there. Okay, now one of the megaspore enclosed within the megasporangium develops into a multicellular female gametophyte that bears two or more archegonia or a female sex organ. Okay, so this one of the megaspore that forms the female archegonia. Now, the multicellular female gametophyte is also retained within the megasporangium. So, this multicellular female gametophyte is again retained inside this megasporangium, and unlike bryophytes and pteridophyte in gymnosperm, the male and female gametophyte do not have an independent free living existing. It is intact in there only. So in the case of bryophytes and pteridophytes, we have seen that they are having the individual sporophyte and gametophytic structures. So, but here in the gymnosperm, this is not fine. They remain within the sporangia and retained on the sporophytes. The pollen grain is released in the form of microsporangium. So here the pollen grains are released into the atmosphere, and they are carried by the air current and come in contact with the opening of the ovules born on the megasporophylls. Now, in this is one of the unique feature that in winged pollen grain is seen in the case of pinus. Okay, because they are taken up by the air current, so this wing like structure helps them to carry from one place to another. So they are carried in the air current and come in contact with the opening of the ovules born on the megasporophylls. The pollen tube carrying the male gametes grow towards the archegonia in the ovule and discharge their content near the mouth of the archegonia. So when the pollen grain germinate, it gave rise to the pollen tube. Now this carrying the male gamete that grows towards the archegonia and in the ovule and discharge their content near the mouth of the archegonia. Following fertilization, zygote develops into an embryo and the ovules into the seeds. So now what happens after the fertilization? This zygote develops into an embryo. Zygote develops into an embryo and the ovules changes to the seed. This we have already discussed. Now this seed is not covered. This is a unique feature of this particular gymnosperms. Unlike the gymnosperm, where the ovules are naked, in the angiosperm or the flowering plant, the pollen grains and ovules are developed in the specialized structure that is called as flowers. Now, if we talk about the angiosperm, that they are having the very unique features. Okay. Now, angiosperms, they are having a structures that is called as flowers. Okay.